Today we come to the end of this series on the fruit of the Spirit. Galatians 5:22 and 23 says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control." Self-control is basically discipline, the control of our desires and our appetites and emotions and our affections. Self-control is a characteristic of the fruit of the Spirit. So self-indulgence is the opposite of self-control. And today we hear a lot about for us to not have control of our desires, but to indulge in whatever we believe will bring us happiness. I don't know if you have ever considered this. Even though this list is not an exhaustive list, Paul begins to describe the characteristics of the fruit, one fruit of the Spirit, with love, an agape kind of a love. And he ends this description with self-control. It's like two bookends. On one hand, love, and on the other, self-control. Why? Let me suggest you an answer which I hope will give you hope and encouragement for today. The answer is proposed to us at the end of verse 23 that says, "Against such things there is no law." Some people break down these 9 characteristics described into 3 different groups. The first group being love, joy, and peace. It relates to our vertical or direct relationship with God. After all, we cannot love unless we have received God's love. And unless we have received God's love, it will not go and give us the joy and the peace and develop all the other characteristics that the Spirit will develop in us. The second group is patience, kindness, and goodness. And we relate them as our attitudes towards everyone around us. Does this remind us of anything? Maybe the 10 Commandments? Some people break the 10 Commandments in a similar way. The first 4 commands addresses our relationship with God, and the last 6 commands address our relationship with those around us. Here is the encouragement part that Paul gives us. This whole chapter, Paul contrasts the law versus faith, works of the flesh versus fruit of the Spirit. And as we know, as Paul reminds us, we cannot be saved by our own efforts. We cannot be saved by the law or by our own works, because there is not enough hope or enough power to sustain the discipline or the self-control to do it at all times. We simply cannot do it. The works of the flesh are not strong, powerful, self-controlled enough to do it, because our desires and emotions are opposed to God in our natural form. What Paul encourages us is that he adds a third group to this list that is only possible because it is a characteristic of the fruit of the Spirit, which is faithfulness. And I like how Eugene Peterson describes it as a long obedience in the same direction. Gentleness, or some other translation says meekness. And lastly, self-control, the discipline to control our desires and our emotions. Self-control begins with submission to the will and to the Word of God, through the abiding and living by the Spirit of God and not on our own strength. And brothers and sisters, this is extremely hopeful to us, because you and I know we can rely on God's promise. In Ezekiel chapter 36, God made a promise to us that He would take our heart of stone and put a heart of flesh in us and put His Spirit in us that would cause us to walk in His statutes. So as you draw near to God every day, day by day, you nurture the Spirit. And the love of God will sustain you as the Spirit empower you to self-control, to seek Him and not the desires of the flesh. God bless you.